I cannot believe 2024 is almost done with, but that means it is time to start talking about the best movies of the year. And as always, before we get into that final top 10, I want to highlight some underrated gems and talk about 10 other great movies that have been unfairly overlooked, underwatched, and underappreciated. I do also have an entire list of top underrated horror movies, specifically of 2024, that I highly recommend and you should check it out. It is still very relevant, and I will not be including any of those movies on this list just so I'm not repeating myself. But let's get into my top 10 most underrated movies of 2024. The Last Stop in Yuma County is a neat little, mostly one location crime thriller that I really enjoyed and that stuck with me a lot more than I initially thought it would. While waiting for the next fuel truck at a middle of nowhere Arizona rest stop, a traveling young knife salesman finds himself in a high-stakes hostage situation at a diner along with a few other people. Why? Well, two bank robbers end up right there with them, and they have no issues resorting to cruelty to protect their fortune. If you enjoy watching utter chaos unfold at a single location, this movie is 100% for you, and this is easily one of the best and most entertaining contained thrillers of the year. Great tension, great atmosphere, fantastic cast. Jim Cummings is always a delight, and you know things are going to get sinister when Richard Brake shows up on screen, and a story that will keep you at the edge of your seat wondering what comes next and how much worse can this situation get. The ending is a bit divisive and it took me some time to fully appreciate it, but I think plenty of people will love the unexpected direction it takes, and in the end, it's the unforgettable, intense journey that makes The Last Stop in Yuma County worth the watch. It will also definitely make you think twice about stopping by a diner to grab a cup of coffee. But thankfully, anyone can make amazing coffee at home with the help of today's sponsor, Trade Coffee. Now listen, the holidays are right around the corner, and while I 100% support treating yourself to some delicious coffee, as I'm doing right now, I also want to say that a coffee subscription is an excellent gift your friends and family are sure to appreciate. It's something that will remind them of you every single morning and something they will look forward to every day. You guys know I'm a big fan of Trade Coffee. I have been a subscriber for a long time because Trade never disappoints. I'm currently really enjoying this leg lamp holiday blend from Red Rooster, which combines chocolate notes with a touch of baking spice, and it is perfect for a winter morning latte. Look, a Trade subscription isn't just coffee, it's an experience, and we all know experiences make the best gifts. You don't even need to know what kind of coffee they prefer or how they brew it. Just pick a subscription, enter their email, and let Trade do the rest. Deliver freshly roasted, delicious coffee perfectly matched to their taste straight to their door. And here's the deal, Trade is offering their best savings of the year on gift subscriptions right now. So head over to drinktrade.com/impressionblend to send a personalized coffee subscription in minutes. Or if you're looking to treat yourself this holiday season, you can also head to drinktrade.com/impressionblend and get a free bag of coffee with any new subscription. So whether you're looking to cross some final gifts off your list or you're ready to elevate your at-home coffee experience, follow my link to save on some delicious coffee. And thank you so much to Trade Coffee for sponsoring this video. But back to underrated hidden gems. La Quimera is a beautiful piece of magical realism that I haven't really heard anyone talk about, but I do think many people would fall in love with it. The movie follows Arthur, a former archaeologist who is gifted, or cursed, with the ability to find Etruscan tombs that he loots with his friends. Their goal is to sell the ancient treasures they dig up, but Arthur is hoping to find something different, a way to reunite with his lost beloved, Beniamina. I love when a film can conjure up that dreamlike quality that makes you feel like you're watching some sort of modern set fairy tale or a fable, and that is exactly what La Quimera does. It also weaves in quite a few mythological references for those who are paying attention, but without overpowering the narrative with them. It definitely is a bit of a slow burn, especially in the beginning, and you have to let it open up and unravel the narrative thread, so to speak, but the unique tone and atmosphere completely drew me in. Loved Josh O'Connor, Isabella Rossellini, and Carol Duarte in this. Loved the way the film approached our relationship with the past, gently blurring the lines between dreams and reality. Also, the ending is absolute perfection and definitely one of my favorite endings of this entire year. I audibly gasped at the end of this movie and I will never forget it. Abigail is a movie I had so much fun with. It's essentially Ready or Not, which I love, but with a vampire, and it's a darkly funny, action-packed horror film that doesn't take itself too seriously. A crew of criminals kidnap a 12-year-old ballerina, the daughter of a powerful man, in hopes of collecting a hefty sum of ransom money. But here's the twist. She is not your ordinary child, and our criminals soon find themselves in a deadly game of cat and mouse with their supposed victim. Because she's not the one trapped with them, they're the ones trapped with her. They can't leave, they can't contact the outside world, and now they're stuck in an old mansion with a vampire. Look, I don't know what people were expecting from Radio Silence here, especially considering this premise, but I got exactly what I was hoping for. A wild ride full of memorable characters and some occasionally over-the-top gore. It may not be a perfect movie, it's not going to change your life, but the cast is having fun, the jokes land, the gore is gross because those visual effects are nasty, and personally, I had a blast watching all of this campy mayhem unfold. Plus, Dan Stevens continues absolutely killing it with villainous characters, and that is just so entertaining. Abigail is exactly what a horror comedy should be like. Now, for those of you looking for an unrelenting adrenaline ride, there is Monkey Man. I'm not sure why this movie wasn't a bigger deal this year, because as far as action goes, this one is just such a great time. A young man makes a living in an underground fight club where, night after night, wearing a gorilla mask, he is beaten by more popular fighters for cash. But after years of suppressed rage, he is finally ready to unleash his vengeance and settle the score with the men who took everything from him and continue to take advantage of the poor and powerless. Dev Patel wrote, directed, and starred in this one, and somehow he pulled all of this off. Monkey Man is bursting with so much energy and passion, it's impossible not to have fun with it. It was also great to see this film infused with some mythology, which is definitely an element that makes it stand out. The movie is a pretty straightforward revenge story, which I love a good revenge story. That is not a bad thing. And while it doesn't reinvent the genre, even feeling a bit too familiar at points because it wears its inspirations on its sleeve, it's the execution that really makes the film shine. With a compelling lead, well-choreographed fight sequences, and a visual style that makes every bit of violence feel like it has weight, it just looks like it hurts, the movie is a very exciting treat for action fans. And now for something completely different, A Different Man, which unexpectedly works really well as a more dramatic and more meta companion piece to the substance. And no, I will not be apologizing for that pun. An aspiring actor, Edward, with a disfiguring facial condition, undergoes an experimental medical procedure to drastically transform his appearance. But to his surprise, his new face quickly becomes a source of disappointment when he meets a very happy man with the same condition and becomes obsessed with reclaiming what he lost. The movie is filled with fascinating, complex characters and performances that really take this already unusual story to the next level. Sebastian Stan and Adam Pearson are particularly fantastic, portraying their characters with a lot of much-needed nuance and flawed humanity. There are no heroes or villains here, just the messy experience we call life. While I don't really want to go into why this movie feels like it's in conversation with the substance, that's something you can discover on your own. I will just say that there is so much food for thought here. A Different Man has a lot going on. It's so many things at once. It's weird, dark, funny, heartfelt, meta, and even features some body horror. What I love the most about it, though, is the complexity it brings to the conversation about self-acceptance, throwing manipulation and societal perception into the mix. Mads is a great and really effective horror film that I really suggest going into knowing as little as possible. So here's me trying to be very vague as I describe the premise and tell you why you should watch it. A teenager stops by to see his dealer to test a new drug before heading out for a night of partying. But things don't go according to plan because on his way home, he encounters an injured woman and decides to try to help her. But with that, the night takes a very strange turn. French horror delivers yet again because, first and foremost, Mads is effectively disturbing and disorienting. What makes this film even more intense is that it's presented as a single take, which just keeps ramping up the tension. I love it when they do this. I don't even want to tell you what subgenre this movie is. Let it be a surprise if you can. Let the movie take you on its crazy journey, but be ready for the gore because trust me on this, the characters in this horror film are about to have a very bad night. Another movie with a very memorable ending. I was sitting there as the end credits rolled, not only wondering how they even pulled off the third act of this movie, but also hungry for more of this story. Not in a way that left me unsatisfied, but in a way that left me thinking, yes, I need more of that. Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, is a documentary I was not emotionally prepared for, and it is a highly rated film by those who actually watched it, but judging by what I saw on Letterboxd and IMDb, barely anyone has actually watched it, so here is me telling you to put it on your list. Most of you already know the story. Christopher Reeve portrayed Superman in 4 different films and played many other roles, trying to showcase his talent and range before being injured in a near-fatal horse riding accident in 1995 that left him paralyzed from the neck down. But he did not give up, choosing hope instead, becoming a leader and an activist, as well as trying to continue his career. Not only did I find this documentary incredibly inspiring, hopeful, and motivating, but I was also really impressed by how well this was put together. There are multiple celebrity documentaries coming out every year, and most of them feel pretty standard, but Superman, Super/Man, is that how you say it? Definitely stands out. It finds a really good balance between archival footage and interviews. It's edited very effectively, and it also doesn't forget to highlight the people who did so much to support Christopher Reeve after his accident, particularly his wife, Dana Reeve. And yes, it is a very emotional experience, after which I felt like I needed to recover and re-examine my life choices, but I loved how powerful and moving this documentary was, and I can't recommend it enough. The First Omen is a movie I had zero expectations for. It's a prequel to the iconic Omen that nobody asked for, and yet it really ended up surprising me because it's actually one of my favorite horror films of 2024. A young American nun is sent to work at a Catholic orphanage in Rome, but her faith is put to the test when she uncovers a sinister conspiracy to bring about the birth of the Antichrist. So yeah, a prequel to The Omen. I cannot believe how great this movie is, and I initially dismissed it because it's a prequel to a classic, just like a lot of people did, but it deserves to be a much bigger deal than it is. Everything about this horror film works. The ominous atmosphere, the 70s vibe, how surprisingly beautifully the movie is shot, the way it makes you feel uneasy and uncomfortable, the score, the build-up to the finale we're all expecting, how much horror and specifically body horror they're able to get away with. The body horror in particular is actually used very well and isn't just there for shock factor, even though it is pretty shocking. Even the jump scares they went for were actually good. Excellent cast as well. Bill Nighy and Ralph Ineson are great, of course, but Nell Tiger-Free is fantastic as the lead. Loved her. This is how you bring back a franchise, making it feel fresh and exciting again. Ghostlight is a genuinely heartwarming, wholesome movie I really think everyone needs to watch. It will heal your soul. I mean, it healed mine, so I'm just passing the good vibes along. A construction worker who is struggling with his chaotic teenage daughter and dealing with a lawsuit unintentionally joins a local theater's production of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. What he doesn't expect is that the rehearsals and the play will help him begin to deal with his complicated feelings and frustrations. Ghostlight is actually one of my most recent discoveries, but I loved it so much that it immediately became one of my favorites of the year. Human connection is a difficult thing to begin with. Reconnecting with your family also isn't easy, and for our lead, Dan, all of this is even harder as he is struggling with grief, guilt, and trying to avoid processing feelings because he doesn't even know where to start. I don't want to spoil anything because this is the kind of movie that fills in the blanks along the way instead of giving you the whole story at the start, and discovering what actually happened is part of the dramatic journey, but what I will say is that it has to do with a very difficult situation, and the healing power of theater is on full display here. I cried so much watching this movie. It's a lot, it's cathartic, but it's also sweet, tender, beautiful, and full of hope. Now, we all know I love a good period piece, and I know many of you love them as well, so I could not make this list without the absolute gem that is The Promised Land, or Bastarden as it's originally titled. They should have kept the original title, I'm just saying. Inspired by a true story, the movie is set in 18th century Denmark, where Captain Ludwig Kallen sets out to tame and cultivate a vast uninhabitable land on which seemingly nothing can grow. But the ruthless lord of that region doesn't like this plan, and as a new community starts to settle in, Ludwig begins to realize this undertaking may end up costing him his life. Look, I love Mads Mikkelsen, who is fantastic as always in this film. I love potatoes, and I love watching a well-done power struggle unfold on screen, so obviously The Promised Land was great. Also, this movie has an excellent villain who is just so hateable, you genuinely wish he gets what he deserves the entire time. You're just waiting for it. The film feels a bit like a classic, to be honest. It's the type of period piece we rarely see made these days. Beautiful production design, excellent performances, a touch of romance, a story that feels like an epic, complete with themes of honor, justice, ambition, and found family. What else could you wish for from a historical drama? But let me know what underappreciated 2024 movies are your favorite hidden gems, and for more of my 2024 favorites, check out this video next.